This video is going to show you how to do your annual inspection of a Mustang Survival Inflatable. You should always refer to your owner's manual for the specific details about your product. I'm going to do an example on an HIT saline harness equipped inflatable, but it's very similar for Elites or MITs or any of the other Mustang Survival products. Each year, usually recommended at the beginning of your season, if you're not using your PFD annually or year-round, you should stop and do a good inspection of your inflatable to make sure that there's nothing that could cause you a problem out on the water. So start with, I like to lay it on a flat, clean surface, which gives you lots of room to move around in a well-lit space, and you can get a good feel for what's happening to the inflatable. Obviously, one of the first things you check for is if your indicators are green, and this is a single point indicator on the Hamar. You would find the same for a Hulky Roberts style inflatable with a window. So you're checking to ensure that the indicator is green and that the expiry date for a Hamar is within the time frame that you're using it. So for example, if it was the year 2018 and your expiry date on the Hamar cap said 2018, that Hamar cap is good until the end of December of 2018, but should be replaced in January of 2019. The next step to do is try to follow a consistent process as you move around the inflatable. I usually start at the inflator side and just carefully looking along the shell of the inflatable. That's the fabric that protects the bladder inside that would provide buoyancy or flotation when inflated. And obviously this is a fairly new model, so I'm not seeing any damage, but if you see holes or burn marks or tears or anything fraying, you'd want to stop and note that and make sure you look underneath at that spot for sure. Also stopping to make sure that the zippers, the breakout zippers, are closed and smooth with no kinks or bends, no frays in the binding that holds the zipper to the shell. If your zipper is kinked or bent, it might hang up on breakout, and you don't want that. You want a smooth, clean breakout if something happens. Very important on this model, which is unique to the Mustang HIT series, is it has two zipper stops in the breakout zipper, and it is these stops covered by Velcro that allow it to break out. If these stops aren't present and the zipper is closed all the way around, stop now. You have to return your product. We have to figure out what's gone wrong. That product may not break out correctly. So these two stops are very important. We call this one of the worst zippers in the world because it doesn't really hold very well, but that's kind of the point. So having gone over the first one face of the inflatable, looking for obvious markings or damage, we flip it over and do the same. But on the back side, you can see we have all of these approval labels and documentation information. You want to make sure that it's all still visible. If you're ever stopped and asked questions by a Coast Guard or any other marine authority, you want to be able to see the lot number and the approval number, whether it's a USCG approval number in the US or a Transport Canada approval number in Canada. It explains what type the PFD is and is same inspection. We look for burns, marks, frays, any threads coming loose, any kind of damage that might have happened that you didn't notice when you put it away at the end of the last year. The other thing now that we're on the back side is we're going to stop and take a look at the harness. This is really the safety element that holds the inflatable to your body, and you want to definitely make sure that there is no fraying of the webbing, there's no burn marks or cuts. It's not knotted or twisted or molding, basically in about as good a shape as a webbing can be for the age of your product. And that continues all the way to the side release buckle in the center. No broken tabs. Both have to be present for the waist belt strength to be at its full. And if you do have a harness model that has the D-rings, you'd want to check that the D-rings are still connected and the stitching that holds the loops in the webbing for the D-rings is in good shape and there's no tears or anything there. After that, we can move to the inside, and that's where we'll do a forced breakout. And we undo the zipper, the breakout zipper all the way. and pull it out of the docks so that we have full access to it and untwist it. And we're going to repeat the same inspection again, but this time on the bladder. If when you were inspecting the outside you saw any points of interest that you were concerned about, I would start looking at those first before you forget where they were. And since we didn't have that, we'll do a general review of the bladder again. So, depending on what country you're in, a whistle may be a regulatory requirement. You want to check that that is still attached if it was supposed to be there. We're going to start on one side again and work our way up the bladder, looking for any cuts, tears, burns. Make sure the reflective tape doesn't have any creases or folds that are lifting it off the bladder. And just generally looking for a nice uniform color without any strange markings or staining on it. That's present, you're in good shape. I'm going to point out right now that there is an inspection log attached to every Mustang Survival PFD. And when you're finished this inspection, you can put the date that you last inspected it on. You don't have to question when the last time was you tested it. If a PFD comes with a light holder, check the strap and make sure that the thread is intact on both sides. No issues on this one. And of course, flip it over. And you can't see as much of the bladder on this side, but typically if there's been no damage to the outer shell, there should be no damage to the bladder inside. There's a small strip of foam on the back, and that's what makes sure that if this device goes in the water on its own, it doesn't sink to the bottom. This is a slightly buoyant device, and it only holds the product out of the water. It won't really affect flotation for the human. And you also want to confirm, after checking that there's nothing on the head pillow, you want to confirm that the oral tube is not dried out or cracking, and that there is a dust cap on the tube. If all of these things are present, that's a really great start to an inspection on your product, and you can fold it back up again and feel comfortable that you've reviewed it and you know that there's no major issues. It should be fairly easy to pack. It's not an inflation event, so we don't have to remove the air. If you were about to have an expired inflator, now might be a time to put it all back together and test a manual activated inflation. But if you still have a good inflator, let's keep it for when you need it on the water. And we'll reverse the zippers on themselves all the way back to the stops, being careful not to catch the bladder in the zipper. This is what's called a self-healing zipper, so it will re-close after you've sent it backwards. Zip to the end, leaving the tag loose for now. Repeat on the short side. Same thing on the short side, zip to the end, we'll leave the tag for now. And then make sure the Velcro tabs are pressed together. On the short side, or the non-inflator side, you hold the zipper with the tab forward and you can easily move it into the bottom of what we call the lobe on that side. On the inflator side, it's important that you can see and get access to the inflation tab. This is what you're going to have to grab if you need to do a manual inflate on this product. So make sure just before you tuck the zipper in, just back it out and look to see that there's a clear path in the end all the way up to your inflator, being careful not to accidentally pull it off. If that's there and there's no tangle in the cord that runs from the inflator to the jerk tab, we zip fully and tuck behind the tab so that the zipper won't interfere with the pull. Put all that together, and you should have confidence that your device is ready to go.